100% Cajun. This is what we do at Rally, Farmore Village. Wash it.
SOL Rally Barbados highlights after the break.
What going on, Barbados?
To the camera, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What going on, Barbados?
Is there one more there? One more there, yeah.
Welcome back to SOL Rally Barbados. We're on the beautiful island of Barbados, the most easterly in this Caribbean region, and this is the spectacular backdrop for SOL Rally Barbados 2016. There are 8 stage venues, 23 planned stages, which will cover approximately 119.7 competitive kilometers, with stage 24 not counting towards the overall. With over 80 cars slated to compete, and by the end of the rally, many will not be classified as overall finishers for one reason or another. On the first day, the competitors will compete on the Bushy Park racing circuit in the south of the island for a super special late in the evening and under the cover of darkness. What had the crowd talking was that WRC 2 points leader Wales Elfyn Evans would be in a Group A Ford Fiesta R5, along with some of the Caribbean's best drivers.
SOL Rally Barbados starts now. What are your intentions?
Well, I think our intentions are the same as everybody else's, which is to win. It's going to be a difficult event like last year. There's going to be a lot of competition, I'm predicting. So it's who has a better rally, who has a cleaner run, least amount of problems, and is the fastest at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're here to try and win it. So this year's a serious attack from stage 1. I don't think we can have any let up. So we've got to be neat, tidy, and fully committed.
Usual thing, flat out from the beginning. I know it's a rally and people say it's a long rally, you gotta get to the finish, but the competition is so fierce now, you can't afford to make a mistake, you can't afford to have a spin. You'll just lose 10 seconds and it'll be very difficult to get it back. So it's gonna be out the gates hot as ever. Josh and I know we're gonna be at it all weekend long, so I'm gonna try to get the upper hand and go for it.
We've changed up our pace noting situation to accommodate my deficiencies here, which is driving on the spot lamps, then into the bright of the flood lamps, then back out of the flood lamps, back onto the spot lamps. My eyes just not adjusting well. So we did some changes to the notes so I don't have to depend so much on what I'm seeing, but what I'm hearing, and then be able to brake in the correct areas and not too early. And that is a big problem here in the dark night.
How is the car going now? I know you had some issues at King of the Hill. Have those problems been resolved?
Well, we've changed the parts of the anti-lag valve that were causing it, and the electrical part of it is back in action, and the car is launching again. So I'm pretty sure that we have eliminated that problem.
And this is where the battle begins, with head-to-head racing around Bushy Park in a figure 8 configuration. Cars were released in the reverse order, starting with the lower classes and working their way up. Here we see Kevin John Manning and Fabian Clark battling it out, and it is Manning who wins the head-to-head. Barry Mayer's in the Ford Fiesta furthest from the screen, and Ireland's Joe McQuillan in the Mitsubishi Evolution 6. They get going, and all wanted the Ford Fiesta to fly on the Super Special after Barry had an early retirement at Flo King of the Hill. McQuillan is quick and spectacular, but seemed to be taking it rather easy here. Barry gave us a taste of the Fiesta's capabilities with a top 10 time on both stages. Neil Armstrong was sitting in a rear-wheel drive Ford Escort beside Roger Duckworth under the start arch. Armstrong is considered among the best in Barbados. However, it would take some time for him to adjust from the front-wheel drive to a rear-wheel drive, and he started off his rally with times in the top 20. This was Armstrong's first time competing in a rear-wheel drive car, and he was not trying to overdo it. Easily the winner of this head-to-head was England's Roger Duckworth, who was just outside the top 10 in the first stage and then 9th on the second pass. Barbados' Darrell Clark in his Honda Civic coming up against England's Nigel Warswick in his WRC 2 Ford Escort Cosworth. Clark has been showing some impressive pace over the year and kept in contention with a car which many thought should have easily won the head-to-head. But it went down to the wire with Warswick narrowly escaping what would have been an upset. Rhett Watson has been the reigning two-wheel drive champion, and in his BMW, he was paired with Dane Skeet. The rear-wheel drive BMW got out the hole faster, but Skeet quickly closed that gap. However, Dane's evening was action-packed as his TPS sensor failed when he initially got to the track, and it had to be replaced. Despite this, he was the winner of the head-to-head and 6th fastest on stage 1. Rhett Watson was just outside the top 10 in 11th place on both stages. A battle many wanted to see is right before our eyes with the pairing of Roger Mears furthest from the screen and Josh Reed, both in Toyota Starlets. This was the beginning of what was to become a weekend-long battle between these two talented drivers. So rarely one gets the treat of seeing the two best going at it. Roger Mears held the advantage over Reed, winning both of the head-to-head battles and leading by about 4 seconds heading into the second day. Roger Skeet admitted that he has problems adjusting to the changing light conditions presented by this opening stage. He made some adjustments to suit. He was going up against Kevin Proctor in the head-to-head. Proctor in the Ford Fiesta proved to be quick and was an impressive 3rd fastest on stage 1. Roger Skeet managed to win the second head-to-head and was 4th fastest on stage 2. Frenchman Simon John Joseph had a jump start on the first stage as we see here, which earned him a time penalty of 10 seconds. The UK's Rob Swan held his nerve and got out the box first, but a determined John Joseph quickly ate up that advantage. Swan was 3rd in the standings, less than 4 seconds off the leader. John Joseph clocked the fastest time on the first 2 stages, but with the time penalty he slipped to 6th in the standings, about 8 seconds behind the day 1 leader. Jamaica's Jeffrey Panton and Wales' Elfyn Evans were the last pair to set the night ablaze. However, the expected head-to-head ended in disappointment when Evans shot off the line too early. Not daunted by the jump start, Panton waited for the light and carved his way around the track like a hot knife through butter. Evans held a healthy advantage due to his jump start, but there was a 10-second penalty waiting him at the finish. Panton continued to push and was 2nd fastest on both opening stages, and with no time penalties, he assumed the lead after the first day of SOL Rally Barbados. Evans slipped to 9th with his time penalty after the first 2 stages. The rally moved to the north of the Elyfn for stages 3 to 14, which spanned 3-stage venues and would also feature some of the stages in reverse direction for the first time in some years. This second day was to cover a total of 68.1 competitive stage kilometers, with a service and lunch halt slated for Greenland Agricultural Station after the first 6 stages.
Good morning, Simon. We're here at day 2 of SOL Rally Barbados. Describe day 1 for us.
Day 1 was actually very good. We just had a small misunderstanding at the start of the stage 1. So for that I had a penalty of 10 seconds, but that's the rule, that's the way it is. So we're going to manage with that. And today I hope we're going to have good fun. Weather looks a bit strange, so it's going to be difficult for everybody.
Looking forward to a great day rallying. I think the competition will be tough. Obviously a lot of World Rally cars here. So yeah, we're looking forward. The stages are looking good. So yeah, let's get going.
Let's just know we're changing weather. What's the plan if it does rain?
I mean, obviously, one part of it will be getting the tyre choice right, and then after that is all just down to the driving. So yeah, let's wait and see.
Time to get going, and of course the spectators were in full liming mode.
Rally Barbados, boom!
Setting the stage for what was to come afterward was car 0, driven by Ryan Wood, and oftentimes seen sideways sliding through the stages.
1. Right over 30 crest slot, latest 5 to the left, don't cut, keep in, into flat right, left over 80, very late, 3 right, don't cut, keep in, right.
King of the Hill is used to see the competitors. However, despite Elfyn Evans and his co-driver Craig Perry finishing third the weekend before, they were seated first by virtue of his FIA priority status.
Minus, big cut, 60, flat right over 100, kink, 4 left sharp, don't cut, keep in, into, latest 4 right, long, keep in.
The stages in the first loop included the 4.8 kilometer long Springvale stage, better known as the Dark Hole stage, the 5.5 kilometer long Canefield stage, and the 7 kilometer long Luke Hill stage. After the first stage on day 2, Evans had already jumped 2 places and moved into 7. By the end of stage 4, the second stage on the day, he had nestled in nicely in 4th overall, which is where he stayed by the completion of the first loop of stages. Despite leading the rally at the start of day 2, Jamaica's Jeffrey Panton and Michael Fennell Jr. knew that the battle was finally poised and fans were in for a tantalizing treat. Panton had led by 3 seconds after day 1, and it grew to just under 8 seconds after stage 3, as he opened his day with the fastest time on the stage. He was probably sending a quick reminder as to who was the boss. However, he had to settle for second on stages 4 and 5, and this saw his advantage cut in half as it dwindled to 4.25 seconds at the end of the first loop of stages. It was abundantly clear that there was no room for games, and double European champion Simon Jean-Joseph was in battle trim. He was 6th due to his time penalty on day 1, but it only took 1 stage on day 2 for him to rocket into 2nd place. With 5 stages completed, Jean-Joseph had posted fastest times on 4 of those stages, and his charge for the lead was well and truly on. If he kept up his relentless pace, the lead would be his before the lunch halt. England's Rob Swan was second at the start of day 2 in SOL Rally Barbados, a mere 3 seconds behind the rally leader Panton. In his Subaru Impreza S12B, he slipped into 3rd as he hasn't quite been on the pace of the top 3. Despite this, he managed to hold on to his 3rd place after the first loop of stages. Roger Skeet has his work cut out for him. He was 5th at the start of day 2, but was dealt a devastating blow on stage 4, which was the first run through Canefield. Here the Sheriff dropped a whopping 16 seconds to the stage winner after a slight off on the stage. This sent him even further down the overall standings to 8th place, but he was back up to 6th by the end of stage 5. England's Kevin Proctor was second after the Super Special at Bushy Park in his Ford Fiesta. However, with the World Rally car stretching their legs on the second day, he gave up 10 seconds to the winner on the first stage as he was 10th and slipped to 6th in the overall battle. All eyes were on Barbados' Josh Reed in his Toyota Starlet, which is one of the giant killers in the grueling rally. Reed was competing at the highest level of the two-wheel drive class and had seemingly found the limits of driver and car in order to ride the razor's edge between performance and reliability. His battle was with Roger Mears, who was currently ahead in the standings. The head-to-head battle on Friday gave fans a taste of things to come. with Mears leading by 3 seconds at the start of the second day. Knowing he had to be aggressive from the start, Roger Mears posted the 5th fastest time on stage 3 and was faster than Reed by 4 seconds. He was 5th in the standings after the first loop, and more importantly, 7 seconds ahead of Josh Reed. Red Watson had an alternator problem on day 1 but managed to get it sorted and was 12th at the start of day 2. In his BMW M3, Watson moved into 11th after stage 3 and sat there, just outside the top 10 after the first set of stages. Dane Skeet's gremlins continued as he discovered on the way home from Bushy Park the 4 bolts that mount the gearbox to the chassis of the Peugeot 306 Maxi had come loose. With the bolt secured once again, he was posting top 10 times on the stages in the morning loop and was 9th overall. Andrew Jones was 29th at the start of the day, but in his Ford Escort Mark II, he had moved up an impressive 9 places by the end of stage 5 and was now 20th. Andrew Malalou maintained his lead in Group N, and it was up to about 10 seconds after stage 5. Avinash Chatrani was 3rd in Group A but outside the top 20 in the overall standings. And here he gets caught out on the Kingfield stage. This is a tricky corner. England's Nigel Worswick was 15th and 2nd in the WRC2 class on the morning of the second day. A disastrous start to the second day of SOL Rally Barbados saw Roger Hill falling about 40 seconds behind the WRC2 class winner on stage 3. Darrell Clark was blazing his way through the stages on the second day in his Honda Civic. After an impressive start at Bushy Park, he was Modified 2 leader and 12th overall after stage 5. Ireland's Martin Donnelly was 4th in WRC2, a whopping 1 minute and 20 seconds adrift of the class leader after stage 5. And that class leader was England's Roger Duckworth in his S6 Subaru Impreza WRC. Duckworth was also 10th overall after 5 stages. Northern Ireland's Joe McQuillan was 2nd in Group A and 13th overall, which was over a minute off the rally leader. Neil Armstrong in the well-turned-out Ford Escort Mark II was 19th overall after the first loop of stages. Just look at Ireland's Jim McKenna flying down this straight on the Luke Hill stage in his Ford Escort Mark II. Braking just in the nick of time, but not quite making the turn. He was 4th in Super Modified 2 and 15th overall after stage 5. Inside the Ford Fiesta with Barry Mears and Ben Norris. They were 4th in Super Modified 2 after stage 4. Mears was driving the car in anger after bowing out of King of the Hill very early. However, he did not finish stage 5 and missed stages 6, 7, and 8 while his crew tried to get the car up and running again. Now believe you me, when this car is fully sorted, it will be a force to be reckoned with. I'm telling you. This Mark II Ford Escort made its rallying debut, piloted by Barry McKenna and Leon Jordan from Ireland. Still at it and fully entertaining the crowd was Ryan Wood in Car 0 and Aaron Paris. Now Woody is known as Sugarfoot, and we see just how sweet his foot is as he corrects this mistake on the Kingfield stage. Elfyn Evans made his move for 3rd as the stages turned to be run in the opposite direction after the lunch halt. Whoa! And a big moment there for Evans. He is lucky to be still on the road. Locked in a battle with England's Rob Swan on the first 2 loops of day 2, Evans inched ahead after stage 9 by less than a second. The lead was less than 4 seconds after stage 6, and Jamaica's Jeffrey Panton was finding it hard to keep the attack of Simon Jean-Joseph at bay. However, on stage 7 he got some breathing room, as a slight problem for Jean-Joseph saw him go 9 seconds slower than Panton. Simon Jean-Joseph had won 4 of the 6 stages before the lunch halt, but the response from Panton was loud and clear as he clocked the fastest time on 5 of the 6 stages after the lunch halt and was now over 30 seconds in the lead. Jean-Joseph also lost 20 seconds on stage 10 with a slight off. Rob Swan had taken back his 3rd place from Elfyn Evans on the very next stage, but under the cover of darkness at the Sailor Gully venue, he handed back the 3rd place to Evans and fell into the clutches of Roger Skeet, who was now snapping at his heels. With less than 2 seconds separating them, Roger Skeet made his move on the final stage of day 2 to move into 4th place ahead of Rob Swan. Kevin Proctor was battling with Dane Skeet all afternoon for 9th place, with the 2 swapping places at times. Josh Reed had been in combat with Roger Mears, but he kept leaking time to Mears during the 2nd day. However, on the very last stage, he managed to claw back about 5 seconds to bring the deficit to only 9 seconds. Roger Mears was faster than Josh Reed 3 times after lunch, but it has not been easy maintaining his lead all day. With day 2 coming to an end, the fight for the top 2-wheel drive honors is still finely poised. Dane Skeet had a good run before the lunch halt when it was discovered that one of the bolts in the back suspension had backed off and another one was bent. Modified 1 leader Neil Corbett had been driving impressively, and it seemed that he and his car were at one. Wales, Gary and Linda Thomas were lucky to escape from this spin, as their rally could have ended here. They got going again and were still in the overall battle. Pete Rayner from England was some distance down the standings in his Ford Escort Mark II, but this was an impressive jump. Flat eyesight. Andrew Jones was inside the top 20 and gave the fans a taste of the old days. Mark Hinch was also impressive in his BMW, but went out on stage 13 after moving up the standings. Jonathan Ince got a bit too excited, and he was catching Shelley Taunt on this stage and hit the gravel and spun out. Now guys, lesson learned, don't chase women so hard. Trinidad's David Coelho showing signs that the car had touched a piece of Barbados it shouldn't have. He was 20th overall at the end of day 2. One of the SOL Rally Barbados regulars, Kenny Hall, was still in the overall hunt. Alan McKay did not finish stage 12 and wasn't seen for the rest of the evening stages afterward. But here, he's flying. The father and son team of Norman and Kyle Catwell missed the last 3 stages of the evening on day 2. Andrew Jones, limping through stage 11, is caught by Roger Hill and pulls aside so he can get by. Turks and Caicos Paul Horton hasn't quite been on the pace, but was 3rd in Modified 2 by the end of day 2. more SOL Rally Barbados next time on your favorite motorsport show, Race 1.